Hello, I'm the Blind Historian. How are you? It's been very cold here. It's a bit strange for July, but I'd like to talk to you about something. I'd like to talk to you about King Arthur. Now, a lot of people have asked me whether King Arthur exists or not. Well, funnily enough, it was King Arthur that actually got me into history. Long time ago, when I was a young teenager, I read the legend of King Arthur and I thought, that sounds really interesting, but is it real? And I was really disappointed because all these stories about the Holy Grail and Excalibur and Tintagel, and I thought, they're not real. Perhaps King Arthur doesn't exist. So I did loads of research and dug. And what I found out was actually King Arthur does exist. Now, a lot of people will tell you he doesn't. I think he does. But the thing is, he wasn't called Arthur and he wasn't a king. So where does that leave us? Well, there's a couple of people that give us evidence for a King Arthur or a leader. Now, at the time, we are talking a long time ago. We're talking 5th and 6th century. So that's a long way back. So there were no written evidence. Unfortunately, the people in Britain at the time couldn't really write. The only people that could write or even read and write were the monks. So there's not a lot of evidence. We have one monk, a monk called Gildas, and he tells us that there was actually a Battle of Badon Hill, which was really important. And the Battle of Badon Hill was a battle between the English on one side and the incomers, the British, on the other. So the English and the British were fighting. So what we might say is one side were the original inhabitants and the other side were the Saxon invaders. And in amongst all of these was a war leader, a very important war leader. Now, Gildas doesn't call him Arthur. He calls him Ambrosius Aurelianus. Now, Ambrosius Aurelianus was somebody born in the purple. So he was actually of Roman birth. And it could be that he was an Arthur. It's a bit awkward to say Ambrosius Aurelianus, isn't it? And it's Roman. The people at the time didn't like Rome very much. So maybe that was Arthur. Maybe not. Now, the Battle of Badon Hill could be Badbury. Possibility. Somewhere down south. However, it could also be somewhere up north. So it could be in Yorkshire somewhere. We have absolutely no idea. And another source we have is called Nennius. Now, he wrote about 200 years later. And he tells us all of the 12 stories. All of the 12 battles, I should say, of King Arthur. Now, the last one was the Battle of Badon, in which Arthur carried the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ for 12 days and 12 nights, and he slayed them all. Now, not really true, but it's probably a memory of a Welsh poet. And what they did is they'd say things in tones to be able to remember it. So it was probably originally an oral poem. So here we have Arthur, a couple of hundred years after he lived, and we have an Ambrosius Aurelianus. Put the two together, and do you know what? I think we had an Arthur. An Arthur that fought for the existing peoples of England at the time, was a war leader, and fought against those incomers, what we will call the Saxons. Now, it didn't work, and we became the Anglo-Saxons. So the originals plus the Saxons joined together, intermarried, and became the Anglo-Saxons. But Arthur is somebody we always remember. Somebody that will come back. Somebody that will return and help us in our times of need. So I really hope he did exist. And in fact, I'm convinced he did. Hope you enjoyed this. Thank you.